Goal streaks, milestones, and routes. Well, it was a busy Thursday night for the Carolina Hurricanes as they start off the road trip with a massive win. We're going to talk all about that on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the Credential Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Nerds, also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my dudes here at Locked On Hurricanes. And what a fun show it's going to be today, as we're going to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes absolutely routing the Chicago Blackhawks on Thursday night at the United Center, 7-2. It's a touchdown in Chi-Town. And there's a lot of milestones that night, plus some goal streaks staying alive as well. We'll get to hear from Rod Brind'Amour after the Hurricanes win. And then we'll talk about more awards, as Jordan Staal was, awarded the Steve Chaisson Award, and Jaccob Slavin gets another nomination in back-to-back seasons. But let's talk about the Hurricanes just absolutely dominating the Blackhawks. And, I saw a lot of people were kind of worried. How is this game going to be? Because you're talking 7 regulars sitting out of the lineup Thursday night. It was Jalen Chatfield, Jaccob Slavin, Sebastian Aho, both Jordans, Andrei Svechnikov, and Seth Jarvis. Of course, we all saw the news on Wednesday, the fact that they called up Bradley Nadeau, Charles Alexis Legault, Josiah Slavin, and Skylar Brind'Amour, and plus they're going to throw Jesperi Kotkaniemi and also Nick Deslauriers in the lineup. A lot of people were very nervous about that. See, Hurricanes resting a lot of guys. How is the team going to be with a fully loaded Blackhawks? Hawks are not really, sending anyone. They're trying to, get points, pick up some wins, kind of, get some of those moral victories and stuff like that. So there was a lot of trepidation from some people, but it's the Carolina Hurricanes. It was either going to be, you're going to get a loss, it is what it is, or you're going to get a win. And the people who watched the game, well, they were definitely in for a treat. Like I said, 7 goals by the Carolina Hurricanes after losing 4-3 back on January 22nd. Came to Chicago and absolutely just dominated. Now, shot totals, it was 25-22 Blackhawks. The Hurricanes had 7 in the first, 8 in the second, and 7 in the third, while the Blackhawks had 7, 9, and 9. But hey, it doesn't matter how they got the job done. They did get the job done. That is what you call efficient scoring, 7 goals on 22 shots. And Spencer Knight was, what more can you really say about a guy who just tried, but just the team in front of him, just outside of Anton Frondel, the rest of the crew, the team basically almost did nothing for the Hawks. Crevier had 2 assists, Vlasic had an assist, and that was basically it. 3 guys got on the score sheet for the Blackhawks, and there was a lot of minuses, -2s, -3s, -4s. Even Connor Bedard was a -4 that night. And Spencer Knight, a .682 save percentage. So the Hurricanes really had no trouble lighting up the score sheet against Spencer Knight, and just unfortunately for him, when you have only 3 guys put points on the board, it's going to be a very, very long night. But how about multi-point nights for Logan Stankoven, 2 goals and an assist. William Carey, 3 assists. First time he's done that in his career, and he did it in 10 minutes and 40 seconds of ice time. Taylor Hall with 2 points, both goal and assist. Mark Jankowski, 2 goals. Will have yourself a game, Janks. And then, a bunch of, assists from Shane Gostisbehere, Alexander Nikishin, Jackson Blake, Nick Deslauriers. First Kane point. Love to see it for Deslauriers. Ehlers with an assist. And then, you're looking at Sean Walker with a goal and Keandre Miller with a goal. Walker almost had a multi-point night, but hey, you know what? Points, you got a goal, +3 for Nikishin, +3 for Keandre Miller, +2 for Ghost. Absolutely putting in the work. There was no minuses on the Hurricanes because, obviously when you score 7 goals, it's kind of hard to be a minus. There were some evens on the roster, but a lot of pluses. One of them being William Carey with a +3, but just an overall great night for the Hurricanes. And you look at, like I said, you had some goal streaks stay alive. Logan Stankoven, once again, scoring 2 goals. That is 7 goals in his last 6 games, and it's a goal streak too, which is absolutely insane to think about. And also, it was a milestone night for Stankoven. How about 20 goals for the first time in his career? Even with him being snake bitten this year, if he had a few more games with goals, he could be sitting almost at 25 right now, but he did hit 20 for the first time. He was over 20 assists. He's at 21 now. He's got 41 points on the season as the second-line center. And you're talking about a guy who's doing this in his first full year as a center. Like, he hasn't really done that since his junior days. Did a little bit for the Dallas and the Texas Stars, but you're talking about a guy who's really had to learn on the fly this year. No pun intended for Nikolai Ehlers, but he's had to really learn this year of how to be a center, and he's really done that for the Hurricanes. And you expect your second line center to have 50, 55 points, but for a guy to have 41, he's only 23. His second full season is actually his first full season in Carolina. New system, learning to actually play a center full time. That's pretty dang solid, all things considered. When you're looking at a guy who could have almost 50 points if he wasn't snake bitten for a few games this year, but the fact he's got 20 goals, 41 points, that's a really testament to the fact that he's only 23. And the crazy part too is his new contract extension doesn't kick into next year, which is an 8-year deal with him getting paid $6 million per year. He's going to be UFA after the 2033-34 season. Think about that. You got Logan Stankoven for 8 more years, and what he's done at 23 in his first full season as a full-time center, give him some more time, let him get into his prime. He could be a very sneaky 2C for the Hurricanes. I know a lot of people were kind of wondering about it, but the Hurricanes have showed that they saw something in him, and they just kept being patient and work with him, and this is where you're at. Another guy with a milestone night. How about Jackson Blake hitting 30 assists for the first time in his career? And on top of Stankoven getting an extension, how about Jackson Blake extension also kicks in next season? $5.117 million for the next 8 seasons. He also will be a UFA after the 33-34 season. And he's now sitting at 52 points on the year. Still 3 goals shy of 25, which he could still possibly get with 3 games left with Utah on Saturday, Philadelphia, and then the Islanders on that Monday and Tuesday. But what a season that Blake's having. You get 17 goals and 34 points last year. This season, like I said, 22 goals, hits 30 assists for the first time. He's at 52. Like, he's already at 50. He's already over 50 points, which, great to see that going from 34, completely skipping the 40s and hit 50. And he still has a chance to hit 25, which, it's still awesome. It's still great to see the fact that he hit 20 for the first time in his career in his second full season with the Hurricanes. With the fact that he's closing in on 25, you'll definitely love to take a quarter century of goals in your second season. But for the fact he's hit 30 assists, that's really good too. And, he told me before the season started, this year was about just trying to become a better version of himself. And then, after the win against the Islanders this past Saturday, I asked him after the game, how do you feel now? And, we talked about it before the season. How are you feeling now with where you're at? And he said he was feeling great, but he knows there's a lot more in him. If there's more to Jackson Blake at 22, like I said, he's already gotten over 20 goals and 30 assists now. And this is just a start of what he could potentially be. You're looking at elite superstar, maybe more after that if he's already at 22, putting up points like this and, getting more comfortable. So with the young core of the fact that you got Blake and Stankoven, 22 and 23, Seth Jarvis is not that much older. Andrei Svechnikov is like 25. Kokoniemi's right there too, if we're just talking about guys in relative age numbers. At least with Svech, Jarvis, Blake, and Stankoven, and then you still got Bradley Nadeau and a bunch of other guys out in the wings. This next group of core guys for the Hurricanes really could open the window for the next decade or more, and that's just something that's crazy to think about where these guys are at. But, you love to see some milestone nights. First Stankoven and Blake, 20 goals for Stinks for, first time ever. Blake with 30 assists for the first time ever. Nick Deslauriers gets his first point with the Canes. William Carey, first 3 assist night, which is really cool to see too. So a lot of great things happening for the Hurricanes. And now they're sitting at 51, 22, and 6, and they are another step closer to getting the number 1 seed in the East. And they do have a game in hand on Buffalo, and looks like Tampa's kind of faltering a little bit. So I don't know, relatively soon we might see a number 1 seed Carolina Hurricanes through the entire eastern portion of the conference. But what a win on Thursday night. 7 regulars out of the lineup, still puts a touchdown on the Blackhawks, and we saw some milestones along the way. Now, we talked about the game overall, but how did Rod Brind'Amour feel about the win? Well, stick around. We'll listen, watch, and react to that in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Spring is a natural reset point. If there's one thing that can quietly cost businesses money, it's messy communication, missed calls, scattered text, no clear thread of who said what. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smart way to run your business communications. Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2 with over 3,000 reviews, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. It lets your entire team share one business number so you never miss a call, text, or an opportunity. The whole team sees the conversation so nothing falls through the cracks. And we're talking calls, texts, and voicemails. And the AI summarizes, they save the serious time by locking the calls and highlighting the next steps automatically. It just makes your business feel more organized and responsive. Make this season where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonAHL. That's QUO.com/lockedonAHL. Quo, no missed calls and no miss customers. Don't forget to check out the Everyday Club for an ad-free episodes and access to a group chat with me and others of the show. Check the link in the show notes or go to the description to sign up today so you never miss out with the Everyday Club. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. All right, so we talked about the Hurricanes just absolutely taken to the Blackhawks. A lot of great things happened. But how did the head coach feel about his team's win after? Well, let's watch, listen, and react to what Rod Brind'Amour said right now.
Tonight, you had 11 of your players on the score sheet. What did you see in this one?
Well, it was a great start, right? You score in the first shift. I think it just kind of set the tone. It's always better to obviously play ahead, and then we really didn't have too many lapses in the game. I thought we just played a solid road game. Obviously had some big plays by Stanks, and actually Will Carey made real nice offensive plays, and Janks finishing on some goals. So anyway, overall, just everybody had their hand in it.
I was going to say, what did you see from Will Carrier to where he's having that play?
Yeah, well, it was Will can do these kind of things. We see him hang on to pucks, and obviously doesn't always cash in, but did tonight. So again, it was a good effort from everyone.
Is that a testament to the system or just the character of the guys that you were able to seemingly not miss a beat with so many guys?
Like I said before the game, they asked about the guys we brought up, and it's like you have to kind of know your people, and they fit perfectly. They know how to play, and they know how we play, and so obviously, they're not replacing the guys we had out, but it helps when you have guys that know what they're doing.
You got a couple key saves from Freddie in the first period too. To say what you like about.
Well, that's what you need in a game like that, right? We had a couple gas. The guy falls down and gives a breakaway. You don't see that very often, and that's a big turning point in the game if they score. So that was probably the save of the game for me.
We talked a lot about challenges or maybe not challenges lately. Made the decision to not, and then a couple seconds later, Logan gets awarded. What were you thinking?
Well, that was an easy one. I mean, for sure it would have been called back, so there was no chance of that. But I just loved it. I mean, Stanks, that was just all individual effort, and what a finish, right? Like, we've been talking about him all year, and he went for that stretch where he wasn't scoring, but he was getting those chances, and it was just a matter of time, and clearly that's what's happened here lately.
Now you've got 6 guys with 20 goals. It's obviously an important time of year. We need contributions up and down the lineup for the group to have the 6. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's how we have to be, to be successful. It's kind of how we're, built. So we need everyone to contribute, and that's what you see when we're on it. That's the kind of game that you get.
Rod, how satisfied were you with the performance of those who were called up today?
I thought they did a great job. Like I said, it's not the easiest thing to throw all of them in, but I thought they did a great job. On the kill, we used them everywhere. Everywhere we had to put them in, there was no, they're on the ice type of thing. So, kudos to those guys.
You talked before the game about Chatfield's injury. The other guys that you ended up scratching, do you feel like those are more rest or actual injuries?
Well, everyone's dealing with some, unfortunately. But they could have played, I think. But we're at a point where the guy's not close to 100, there's really no reason to throw him in.
Big thank you to Rod Brind'Amour and the Carolina Hurricanes as always. And, you heard from him. He was happy with the entire night of the performances. The fact he got Logan Stankoven with 2 goals, getting him up to 20. Mark Jankowski gets 20. He gets a couple goals. Willem Carrier, who, doesn't really get talked about enough for what he can do offensively just because, he doesn't show up on the score sheet a lot, but finally cashed in and got 3 assists. And you look at just an overall team performance to now, now you have 6 guys with, 20 goals this season. And, heard Walt ask him about that. And Rod was talking about that's kind of how we have to be set up. This Hurricanes team, without a doubt, is built by goals by committee. That's just straight up how it is. They are a team that's just one where it's not a top line or a top 6, and it's heavy, and then it's everyone else that can kind of plug into the lineup. This is a group where everyone has to contribute across the board, and the guys right now that have 20 goals this season, you got Seth Jarvis with 32, Andrei Svechnikov with 30, Sebastian Aho with 26, Nick Ehlers 24, Jackson Blake with 22, Stankoven just got to 21. And the thing is, too, the Hurricanes are 1 player away from having 7, which could lead the entire league in 20 goal scorers. 7. That guy, Jordan Staal, still sitting at 19. If the captain gets a goal within the next 3 games, they would have a league-leading 7 20-goal scores. The other times since their relocation to the Hurricanes have had 6 20-goal scorers. How about the 05-06 season, and then you follow that up with the 06-07 season? Back in 2006-07, Justin Williams 33, Whitney with 32, Eric Staal with 30, Eric Cole with 29, Rod Brind'Amour with 26, and Walker with 21. And we're not talking about Sean Walker. This is a completely different Walker. 05-06, the Stanley Cup season. How about Eric Staal, 45 goals? Rod Brind'Amour, 31. Yeah, you heard that right. Rod Brind'Amour had 31, so he backed it up back to 2 seasons in a row where he could have had a combined 37 goals. Or 57 goals, actually. 57 goals in 2 seasons for Rod. That's crazy to think about. Williams, 31. Followed that up with 33 the next season. Eric Cole with 30. Matt Cullen with 25. How about Corey Stillman with 21? Those are the 2 rosters that had 6 guys with 20 or more goals. And the fact that the Hurricanes just did it again, and they're on the precipice of having 7 20-goal scorers. That says a lot about this team. And the fact that, they can bring guys up from Chicago like, Skyler, Nadeau, Charles Alexis Legault, and Josiah Slavin, and fit in seamlessly. That speaks a lot to why the Hurricanes really wanted the Wolves to run that system in Chicago too, because then you have guys come up and it's just a seamless transition. And I will say this, what Anastas has done there with the Chicago Wolves after taking over for Cam Abbott, Spiros has done an absolutely amazing job setting these guys up for what they can do for the Hurricanes. So if you haven't yet, make sure to watch the Chicago Wolves games and see what Anastas and his staff have done. And the fact that he's still an interim head coach is crazy to me. Hopefully that gets dropped. But what he's done to set these guys up to come up to Raleigh and play for the Hurricanes, or even if it's on the road, says a lot. But overall, great performance just across the board. I mean, Freddie made some big saves when he needed, contributions across, top and bottom of the lineup, and that's all you can really ask for. And that's something that you really have to be proud of if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, the fact that you have 7 guys come out of your lineup and absolutely just put up a touchdown and just take complete control of this whole system. And the fact of what they've done, it's just amazing to see. And now you're just hoping this thing just keeps continuing on. But just really, really awesome to see for the fact that they just keep getting the job done. Now, we heard from Rod Brind'Amour. We talked about the game overall, but now there's some more awards that have been either awarded or have been nominated for. So stick around. We'll talk about Jordan Staal and Jaccob Slavin getting some, hardware and being nominated for some here in a second on Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. All right, so we talk about the game overall where the Hurricanes won 7-2 over the Blackhawks. We heard from Rod Brind'Amour, get his thoughts on the game. Now we get to talk about some awards that have either been nominated or have also been awarded to. And We'll start off with Jaccob Slavin. For the second time in back-to-back seasons, he has been nominated as the team's nominee for the 2025-26 King Clancy Memorial Trophy. This trophy is presented to the player who best exemplifies leadership qualities on and off the ice and has made a noteworthy humanitarian contribution to his community. Every guy is selected by the representing NHL teams, and the winner will be picked by senior NHL executives, and of course with Jaccob Slavin. This season he does have 7 points, 1 goal, 6 assists. His 1 goal came in the very big one against the Boston Bruins in overtime. But the fact that, he is a 2-time winner of the Lady Byng, and the fact that he's, like I said, this is the second year in a row where he's been nominated for the King Clancy, and that's because you're talking about, Jaccob Slavin, very deep in his own faith, and the fact that him and his wife Kylie have started the international justice mission called Fight for Freedom, which is protecting vulnerable communities from violence and modern slavery. They have also raised $1 million, and they've also pledged $500,000 for Compassion International's The Fight for First campaign as well, and basically helping out a lot of other families as well. And of course, being involved with Raleigh Dream Center and the Raleigh Rescue Mission, and just being able to help children each school year. And also, he has worked with the Hurricanes Foundation to distribute 2,000 holiday meals to families in need at Thanksgiving. That really goes to show you how important Jaccob Slavin is and how much he's been helping out the community. That's why it's no surprise for the second year in a row he's been nominated for the King Clancy by the Hurricanes, and the fact that what he's done, it really just says a lot for what he does on the ice, but also importantly off the ice, especially, not just in Raleigh, but internationally as well. And if there's probably no one more deserving to get nominated for the King Clancy, it's definitely Jaccob Slavin. The fact that he's done 2 years in a row speaks a lot for what he is as a person, and the fact that he's going to be here for a very long time as well. Now, another award that was given out, this one was to Jordan Staal, as he was named the Steve Chaisson Award winner. And this is given annually to the Hurricane player that best exemplifies determination and dedication while proving to be an inspiration to his teammates throughout his performance and approach to the game. And this is an award that's actually selected by the guys on the team. So it's not a real surprise that the guys picked Jordan to be the Steve Chaisson Award winner this season. Mainly because the fact that he's got 19 goals this season, which is his most since 2017-18, having 34 points in 74 games. And like I say, he's one of those guys who's really close to having 20 goals, which has been a very, very long time since he's had a 20-goal season. But it's really cool to see the fact that, he won the Steve Chaisson this year. And this is the fact that this is the 4th time he's won the award. Past winners include Brent Burns, who's won it twice, Sebastian Aho, Jesper Fast, Andrei Svechnikov, Justin Williams has won this thing. Manny Malhotra back in the days won it. Tim Gleason's won it twice. Eric Staal, Rod Brind'Amour 5 times. Brett Hedican, all of those guys. And that's, really started back in the 1999-2000 season when Sean Hill was the first recipient of the Steve Chaisson Award. So it's really cool the fact that Jordan Staal got it for the 4th time after, the fact that Brent Burns won it twice in 3 years. And, it's like the Joseph Vasicek Award given to, guys that have, best exemplified. The fact when you look at the Joseph Vasicek Award, that was given by media because of the fact of, being, cooperative with the media. And that's something that Taylor Hall got, which is, really great to see. And the fact that that was after the late Joseph Vasicek, who unfortunately died in that, KHL plane crash back in 2011. And, with the Steve Chaisson Awards, named after the late Steve Chaisson, one of the early, guys on the Hurricanes team, and they relocated from the Hartford Whalers. And, that's the Steve Chaisson Award is not just any award. Like, that does mean a lot for, especially within the organization, is the fact that that's what you really want, guys to have that type of role in leadership on and off the ice and just through his play and all that stuff. So it's, being an inspiration once again for the 4th year in a row, and the fact that he's doing it at 37 years old, going to the last year of his contract next year, that speaks to the guy that Jordan Staal is, of what he can do to lead this team and where they're at now with, you're almost on the precipice of winning the first seed in the Eastern Conference. You won your division this year, 4th time in 6 years. And, just finding ways to keep winning, and the fact that he's just found his scoring touch once again. That was really great to see. And, other awards that were given out, Taylor Hall was nominated for the Bill Masterton Award. Of course, that's, being picked by all the teams, and then eventually will get picked later on. Like I said, Joseph Vasicek was given to Taylor Hall by the media, and then Brandon Busty was the team MVP, and it's no real surprise that the fact that he won the team MVP with how the season, that he's been having this year, it makes the most sense why Busty would have gotten that award, just because of what he's done for the Hurricanes this year and kind of really, helped them stay afloat this year with the fact that, Freddie kind of struggled for a good bit, and, Peter Kochetkov was out. So Brandon Busty's definitely done that. Past guys, Jordan Staal was the Masterton nomination last year. Seth Jarvis got the Joseph Vasicek for the second time last year. And then Sebastian Aho last season got his 7th team MVP. And at that point, that was a run of 3 in a row. And before that, Freddie got it in 21-22. Aho had it 4 more times before that. So, it's really cool to see the fact that you got new guys winning team awards, and other guys being nominated for Mastertons and all that stuff. But it's really cool to see the fact that, Jordan Staal got the Steve Chaisson Award again. Like I said, Taylor Hall got the Joseph Vasicek, got nominated for the Bill Masterton, and the Brandon Busty gets team MVP. But a lot of these awards and nominations are really deserving for these guys. Like I said, Jaccob Slavin, got the, nomination once again for the King Clancy. So really, really cool to see the fact that these guys are just getting, awarded or nominated for their seasons. And this is, on and off the ice type of stuff. So really awesome to see. And now where the Hurricanes sit, do a little quick update of where we are in the standings after all the games from last night before we jump into the 0-game Friday, which is crazy for the fact we had all those games on Thursday night, but not so much on Friday. Hurricanes 108 points. They are 10 up on the Pittsburgh Penguins. And of course, they won the division by a good margin, 3 games left. But here's the thing. They are 2 points up on the Buffalo Sabres of 106 points. And the Hurricanes do have a game in hand. Buffalo only has 2 games left. The Montreal Canadiens, 4 points back, 104. Still have played the same number of games at 79. Tampa Bay, 102 points. They've lost 3 straight games with 3 games to go. Right now, I think Tampa's out of it. Unless they absolutely win 3 more and the Hurricanes drop the next 3, it's going to be very tough to get 6 points on the Hurricanes. Montreal, same amount of games as the Hurricanes. They are 4 points back, so that's still going to be a little close. Buffalo only 2 points back, but they have played 1 more game. But the fact that Montreal's won 2 in a row, Buffalo's won 3 in a row, and the Hurricanes have won 2 in a row, this would be a very, very tight race with 3 games left. And so many points up for grabs between these 3 teams, with Tampa being very much on the outside looking in for the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. But all in all, what a great way to start the road trip. Get a 7-2 win against the Blackhawks, doing it in a dominating fashion with 7 regulars out of the lineup. Now 3 games left. They got Utah on Saturday for a crazy, out 1 game out west before they have to come back to the Eastern time zone after being in the Central time zone last night, before they do the back-to-back Monday and Tuesday against the Flyers and the Islanders. But hey, what a way to kick it off on the right fashion. We're going to see where the team goes from here, and hopefully very, very soon, maybe the next couple of games, that we will see a Hurricanes team clinch the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference for the playoffs. But guys, this will be the Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, and this has been a fun episode for me because this is my 500th episode as the host of Locked On Hurricanes. It's crazy to think that episode 1 was April 8th back in 2024. And now 2 years and a couple days later, this is number 500 with me at the helm. It's been a fun ride. Can't wait to see what the next 500 holds, but it's great to be able to be the host of Locked On Hurricanes officially now for 500 shows. And if you've been here since my first show, or whenever you decide to show up along the way, I do appreciate all the support, guys. It's been a lot of fun doing 500 shows of the podcast, and the fact that this episode overall will be 1,204. So big shout out to Jared Ellis for starting this thing, and hopefully I've definitely, been able to kind of, keep bringing Locked On Hurricanes as best as possible for you guys. So thank you for allowing me to be your host of the show for the last 500, and hopefully see what the next 500 holds. But if you've not missed an episode, make sure to Check out the David Club because it is built for you. Get Locked On Hurricanes ad-free, plus the members-only Discord access and more. Head to the link in the show notes to join the club today. It's $5 a month or $50 for an entire year. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On podcast or YouTube channel on audio. Make sure to make your second listen to the AHL Game Night on Locked On AHL. If you want to keep up with me, I'm a one true Zach on X. The podcast is L_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky, the Zachary Martin, where if you click the link in my bio, you can find all my written content at thehockeyrares.com. I've been putting out a lot of stuff recently, like a lot of articles. I just did one on Logan Stankoven and Jackson Blake, hitting some milestones against the win against the Blackhawks. So make sure to go check that out. Also talked about Taylor Hall, getting the nomination for the Masterton, and so much more. So make sure to go to thehockeyrares.com to check out all of my recent articles. If you want to check out my other podcasts, the Searchcast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For Locked On Hurricanes, we're on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. On YouTube, it's Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up to let me know if you like the show as well. Share with other Canadians to become everydayers just like you. But hope everyone enjoyed the Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Friday and enjoy your weekend. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.